Hey, so at Belvista Studios, we've been really interested in UX, which is also known as user experience. So I've been to a few meetups and I just thought I'd share with you some of the learnings I've got from those meetups. I think it's such an awesome tool to use and I'm getting really excited about how we can use it for designing our learning solutions. So for anyone out there who's interested in UX or wants to know some of the tools that you could potentially use for your learning solutions, then I really hope that this video is useful for you. So let's get into it. So before we get started, you might be thinking, what is UX? So UX is all about designing for your end user. So it's about putting yourself in your end user's shoes, thinking about what their experience would be like, and putting in a lot of effort to discover how you can create a process or a product that can work best for them. So this really links to human-centered design and design thinking, which is another topic that I absolutely love. So that's why I found UX really great, because I feel like it does provide you with tools to really focus on that end user, discover what they need to have a valuable experience, and design a solution that works for them. Okay, so I'm just going to give you a really quick example so you can understand what UX is in a real life experience or example. So I want you to imagine that someone comes to you and they need a piece of art. So they've come to you and they've said, I want a piece of art, I want you to find the best piece of art for me. So you could either go out and with what you think a great piece of art is, so it could be an amazing sunset on the African landscape. That to you could be an amazing piece of art. It could have vibrant oranges, reds, yellow, and be really a standout piece of art. But you actually haven't figured out what your end user wants. So they've asked you to find a piece of art, but you don't necessarily know what piece of art would work for them. So if you were to implement UX or user experience theories or tools, then you would find out what's going to be the best piece of art for them as an end user. So for example, your end user could potentially be colorblind. So you've thought of this amazing piece of art, it's beautiful, it's vibrant colors, but potentially they can't even see those colors. So this is an example of how putting emphasis on who your end user is and really discovering who they are, having a deep understanding of what their needs are, can have such a big impact on the product that you end up with. Okay, so I'm going to share with you two tools that I found really useful and that I picked up along the way when I was attending UX meetups. So the first tool is personas. And we love personas at Belvista Studios. It's something that we use quite often. And basically personas allow you to have a snapshot picture of who your end user is. So potentially it'd be a collection of lots of different users put into one persona. And something that I found really interesting with UX, I've always had a question in my head around making assumptions. So how can you know exactly who that end user is, and where are you getting this information from? Are you making some of it up, or are you actually going out and interviewing the end user, watching them in their environment and getting that concrete factual information? So I asked a UX designer who was running a meetup and he had a really great suggestion. So he said, if you have assumptions, that's fine, but make sure you mark it down as assumptions. So you could potentially have a sheet of paper with two columns. One could be facts, so it could be from interviews, this is the exact feedback, or this is exactly what the end user told us. It could be, this is exactly what I observed happening in the end user's environment. So that would be facts about your end user. And then there's also assumptions. So you could say, oh, from the situation that they're in, I think this is what the end user would be like. So you could potentially say, oh, they're office workers, so they're going to be really good at using computers. And that could potentially be an assumption. It seems like it would be true, but you would need to test that and make sure. So you have this column of facts and assumptions, and that helps you build your end persona or your end user persona. And if you want to explore the assumptions and have a more concrete or more legitimate end user profile or persona, then you can challenge those assumptions. So you can go find out if those assumptions are true by interviews, going out and watching them in their environment, or whatever you need to do to find out whether it's fact or assumption. Okay, the second tool that I want to share with you is the 4 C's. So there's 4 different C's, they all have a different meaning, and basically addressing each of those C's allows you to really explore the problem at hand or explore the learning solution and basically gain a really deep understanding of it so you can create the best possible solution for your end user. So the first C is components, and components is all about everything that's relevant to the learning solution or problem. So when I went to a UX meetup, we used an online shopping checkout process as an example. So we used ASOS, And so we said, okay, so the components of that would be the website, the shopping cart, the delivery information, the payment card details, and you can see where I'm getting at. It's just basically naming everything that's associated with that product or process that you're looking at. And the second C is characteristics. So that's about how do you want that end product to look? So when it's working well, what would it look like? So in the case of a learning solution, you could say, okay, by the end of this program, we want learners to be able to supervise effectively. We want them to be able to have difficult conversations. We want them to be able to go into the e-learning module easily without any difficulty. We want them to be able to understand the content. We don't want them to be overwhelmed. So basically write down all the characteristics that you would like that learning solution or end product to have. And the third C is challenges. So that's about what sort of challenges are you potentially going to encounter when you're designing your learning solution. So potentially it could be accessibility, so you might need to create a course that's accessible to everyone. So that could be, okay, we're going to have to include captions, we're going to have to use certain colors that meet accessibility standards. Other things could be, okay, we've got outdoor workers, this is an online module, they don't have access to a computer, how are we going to deal with that? And basically it's just looking at all the challenges relevant to the problem or learning solution and just writing that down so you're aware of it and you can include that in your design. And the fourth C is characters. So what characters are involved? So it could be the stakeholders of the project. So maybe it's the CEO of the company that you're designing for, it could be the subject matter experts, most importantly your end user. So who are your end users? What's a little bit about them? You could have a persona for them in this section, and basically just talking about every single person that's involved so you know who to include in certain parts of the design process and be able to design a product that meets everyone's needs to the best of your ability. Okay, so there you go. That's 2 UX tools that you can use to design your learning solutions. The first one being personas, and that's around creating a profile of your end user to enable you to design a solution that works for them. In the comment section down below, I'll include resources for persona template that we use, and also someone on YouTube that's really great at explaining personas, so you can check that out. And the second one is the 4 C's, so that's around having a deep understanding of your problem prior to designing it. So you could do this with your team, get as many people involved as possible so you can get as much information related to the problem or learning solution as you can. I hope you enjoyed that video. I really love UX and I hope that you find it useful for your learning solutions. Yeah, have an awesome day. Thanks.